The thunder of hooves announced his arrival before Millie Callahan ever laid eyes on him. She was polishing glasses behind the bar of the Silver Dollar when the saloon's swinging doors parted, revealing a tall silhouette backlit by the harsh midday sun. Millie had seen countless men walk through those doors in her 2 years working in Tumbleweed Springs, but something about this stranger made her pause, the cloth in her hand going still against the glass. Tumbleweed Springs, Wyoming Territory, 1878, was no place for the faint of heart. The small frontier town had sprung up around a silver mining operation 5 years prior, drawing prospectors, merchants, and desperados alike. The Silver Dollar Saloon stood as the beating heart of the dusty settlement, and Millie had learned to read men quickly, a skill necessary for survival in her line of work. The stranger approached the bar with deliberate steps, spurs jingling softly against the worn wooden floorboards. Dust clung to his denim pants and the hem of his long duster coat, evidence of many miles traveled. When he removed his hat, revealing tousled dark hair and striking blue eyes, Millie felt an unfamiliar flutter in her chest. "Whiskey," he said simply, his voice deep and smooth as river stones. Millie nodded, reaching for a bottle on the shelf behind her. "New in town?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Tumbleweed Springs was small enough that a face like his wouldn't have gone unnoticed. "Just rode in," he confirmed, placing a coin on the counter. "Name's Noah Yates." "Millie Callahan," she replied, sliding his drink across the bar. Their fingers brushed momentarily during the exchange, and Millie pulled her hand back, perhaps too quickly. "What brings you to our little corner of nowhere, Mr. Yates?" Noah took a measured sip of whiskey before answering. "Cattle drive. Delivered a herd to the railroad up north. Thought I'd take some time before heading back to Texas." Millie nodded, having heard similar stories from countless drifters. Cowboys were as common as tumbleweeds in these parts, blowing in with the wind and disappearing just as quickly. She'd learned early on not to get attached. "Well, Mr. Yates, you'll find plenty to keep you occupied in Tumbleweed Springs, though I can't promise it will be to your liking." A hint of a smile played at the corners of his mouth. "I've already found something to my liking." The directness of his gaze made her cheeks warm, but Millie was accustomed to such attention. Men often mistook her friendly demeanor for invitation, a hazard of her profession. She'd built walls around her heart high enough to keep even the most persistent suitors at bay. "The whiskey is good, isn't it?" she deflected, turning to serve another customer. Throughout the evening, Millie felt Noah's eyes following her as she worked. Unlike the other patrons who became increasingly rowdy with each drink, he maintained a quiet presence at the end of the bar. He nursed his whiskey slowly, declining offers to join poker games or engage with the other saloon girls who flitted about in their colorful dresses. As the night wore on and the crowd thinned, Millie found herself returning to his end of the bar more frequently than necessary. There was something about this quiet cowboy that intrigued her. "You're not much for carousing," she observed, wiping the counter near his almost empty glass. "Never saw much point in it," Noah replied. "Seems to me a man ought to remember what he did come morning." Millie laughed softly. "That's not a common philosophy around here." "I'm not a common man, Miss Callahan." The way he said her name sent a shiver down her spine. Millie had long ago learned to separate her true self from the persona she presented to customers, the vivacious saloon girl with a ready smile and a quick wit. But something about Noah Yates made her want to lower her guard, if only for a moment. "Most of the men who come through those doors want one thing," she said, nodding toward the staircase that led to the rooms above the saloon. It was a blunt statement, meant to gauge his reaction. Noah's expression remained unreadable. "Most men are fools, then." Before Millie could respond, the saloon owner, Edgar Thompson, called for her. "Millie, table 3 needs attention." With the apologetic smile, she moved away to attend to a group of miners celebrating a profitable day. When she glanced back at Noah's spot at the bar later, she found it empty, his payment neatly placed beside the glass. An unexpected pang of disappointment struck her. The next morning, Millie was sweeping the saloon floor when the doors swung open. Noah stood there, looking fresher than he had the previous night. He'd clearly taken time to clean up, his clothes less dusty and his face cleanly shaven. "Good morning, Miss Callahan," he greeted, hat in hand. "I was wondering if you might join me for breakfast at the cafe across the street." Millie paused, broom in hand. I don't typically socialize with customers, Mr. Yates. Then consider me a friend instead. She raised an eyebrow. We've only just met. Every friendship has to start somewhere, he countered with a slight smile. Against her better judgment, Millie found herself nodding. Let me inform Mr. Thompson I'm stepping out. The town was just coming to life as they crossed the dusty main street to Widow Parker's cafe. Early morning sunlight gilded the weathered storefronts, and the scent of fresh bread wafted through the air. A few townsfolk nodded greetings, some casting curious glances at the pair. Noah pulled out a chair for Millie at a small table by the window, an unexpected courtesy that didn't go unnoticed. Most men she encountered lacked such manners. I appreciate the invitation, Millie said once they were seated, but I'm curious about your intentions, Mr. Yates. Noah, he corrected gently, and my intentions are simple. I'd like to know you better. You realize what I do at the saloon, Millie said, keeping her voice low. What people assume about women in my position. Noah met her gaze directly. I don't make assumptions about anyone, Miss Callahan. I prefer to learn the truth for myself. Their conversation was interrupted by Widow Parker herself, a plump woman with kind eyes who brought them coffee and took their breakfast orders. Once she had bustled away, Millie found herself opening up to Noah in a way she rarely did with strangers. She told him about growing up in Ohio, losing her parents to influenza when she was 16, and making the difficult journey west with her uncle 3 years ago. When her uncle died in a mining accident shortly after their arrival, Millie had been left with few options. The saloon offered room, board, and wages, a rare opportunity for a young woman alone on the frontier. I serve drinks and provide conversation, she clarified, seeing the unasked question in his eyes. Nothing more, despite what some might believe. Noah nodded, seeming to understand the distinction without judgment. In turn, he shared his own story, raised on a cattle ranch outside of San Antonio, riding with trail drives since he was 15, and now, at 28, considering settling down somewhere. The trail's no place to build a life, he said, staring into his coffee cup. A man gets to thinking about having something of his own after a while. There was a wistfulness in his voice that resonated with Millie. She too harbored dreams of something more, though she rarely allowed herself to dwell on them. After breakfast, Noah walked her back to the saloon. At the door, he hesitated. I'd like to see you again, Millie. Properly, not just at the saloon. Millie studied his face, searching for signs of deception, but finding none. Why me? There are plenty of respectable women in town who'd be happy for your attention. Because in one conversation, I've learned you're strong, resilient, and honest, he said simply. Rare qualities anywhere, but especially out here. Before she could respond, he tipped his hat and departed, leaving Millie to ponder his words as she returned to her duties. Over the next week, Noah became a regular presence in Millie's life. He would appear at the saloon each evening, claiming his spot at the bar, but never drinking to excess. During the day, he found reasons to cross paths with her, offering to carry her packages when she visited the general store, accompanying her on errands around town, or simply appearing with a wildflower he'd picked on his morning ride. Each interaction revealed something new about him. Unlike many drifters, Noah was well-read, often referencing books Millie had enjoyed in her youth. He spoke thoughtfully and listened intently, treating her opinions with genuine respect. And though she caught him looking at her with undisguised admiration, he never presumed or pushed for more than she offered. The town, predictably, noticed. Millie overheard whispers when she passed the church ladies on Sunday morning, saw the knowing glances exchanged by the men at the saloon. Edgar Thompson pulled her aside one evening, his concern evident. Be careful, girl, he warned. Cowboys don't put down roots. When the wind changes, he'll be gone like the rest. Millie nodded, acknowledging the truth in his words. I know the nature of men who pass through, Mr. Thompson. Do you? Because you've been different since this one arrived. I've never seen you so hopeful. His observation startled her. Had she been so transparent? Millie had always prided herself on maintaining distance, on keeping her heart protected. Yet somehow, Noah had slipped past her defenses. That night, when the saloon was particularly crowded due to a successful cattle sale, Millie found herself cornered by Jasper Reed, a local rancher known for his heavy hand with liquor and women. How about a private dance, darling? He slurred, blocking her path to the bar. I need to serve these drinks, Mr. Reed, Millie replied firmly, trying to step around him. Jasper grabbed her wrist, spilling the tray of whiskey she carried. Don't be so cold. That cowboy's been talking up all your time. The rest of us are feeling neglected. Before Millie could respond, Noah materialized beside them, his hand closing over Jasper's arm. The lady said no. Jasper released Millie but turned his aggression toward Noah. This ain't your business, Drifter. You don't own her. Neither do you, Noah replied evenly, though Millie could see the tension in his jaw. Now apologize to Miss Callahan. The saloon had quieted, all eyes on the confrontation. Jasper, aware of his audience, puffed up his chest. Or what? The question hung in the air for a beat before Noah's fist connected with Jasper's jaw, sending the rancher stumbling backward into a table. Chairs scattered as Jasper regained his footing and lunged, but Noah sidestepped neatly, causing the drunken man to crash into another patron. Within seconds, the saloon erupted into chaos. Fists flew, bottles shattered, and Millie found herself pulled behind the bar by Edgar Thompson as the brawl spread throughout the establishment. Your cowboys caused quite a ruckus, Thompson muttered, though he didn't seem entirely displeased. Bar fights were good for business, as long as not too much inventory was destroyed. When Sheriff Miller finally arrived to restore order, Noah sported a split lip and a darkening eye. But Jasper Reed looked considerably worse as he was dragged off to sober up in the town jail. After helping Thompson right tables and sweep up broken glass, Millie approached Noah, who was pressing a damp cloth to his face. That was foolish, she chided, taking the cloth from him to dab gently at his cut lip. He disrespected you, Noah replied simply. I'm used to handling men like Jasper Reed. Noah's eyes darkened. You shouldn't have to be. The intensity of his gaze made Millie step back, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. Why did you really come to Tumbleweed Springs, Noah? The truth, please. He sighed, wincing slightly at the pain from his injuries. I was passing through on my way back from the cattle drive, as I told you. But I stayed because of you. You don't know me, Millie countered. I'm learning, he said softly. And everything I learn makes me want to know more. The vulnerability in his admission disarmed her. For years, Millie had maintained careful barriers between herself and the men who frequented the saloon. Noah made her want to lower those barriers, a prospect both exhilarating and terrifying. I have work to finish, she said, returning the cloth to him. Get some rest. That I will look worse tomorrow. Noah caught her hand before she could retreat. Ride with me tomorrow. There's a place outside town I'd like to show you. Against her better judgment, Millie agreed. The following day dawned clear and crisp, a welcome respite from the summer heat. Noah waited outside the saloon with 2 horses his own sturdy gelding and a gentle mare borrowed from the livery stable. Millie emerged wearing her simplest dress and a borrowed riding hat, her hair tied back in a practical braid. You look lovely, Noah said, helping her mount the mare. They rode out of town, following a narrow trail that wound through scrubland before ascending into rolling hills dotted with ponderosa pines. The air smelled of sage and pine needles, a refreshing change from the perpetual odors of whiskey and tobacco that permeated the saloon. After an hour's ride, they crested a hill to reveal a small valley below, bisected by a clear stream lined with cottonwoods. The contrast between the lush greenery along the water and the surrounding arid landscape was striking. It's beautiful, Millie breathed, taking in the unexpected oasis. Noah dismounted and helped her down from the mare, his hands lingering at her waist perhaps a moment longer than necessary. I found it 3 days ago while exploring. Thought you might appreciate a place where the only sounds are water and wind. They spread a blanket beneath a cottonwood and shared the picnic. Noah had arranged bread, cheese, dried fruit, and a bottle of surprisingly good wine. As they ate, Millie found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't in years, perhaps ever. Here, miles from town, she wasn't a saloon girl or an object of gossip. She was simply herself. Tell me something you've never told anyone, Noah said as they watched clouds drift overhead through the dappled leaves. Millie considered the request. I write poetry, she admitted finally. Nothing good, mind you, but it helps me make sense of things. Noah's face lit up with genuine interest. Would you share some with me someday? Perhaps, she hedged, both flattered and embarrassed by his enthusiasm. Your turn now. Tell me something you keep close. He was quiet for so long that Millie thought he might not answer. Then, staring at the stream rather than at her, he spoke. I was engaged once, back in Texas. Caroline was the daughter of a neighboring rancher. We'd known each other since childhood. Millie felt a twinge of something that might have been jealousy. What happened? Cholera, Noah said simply. Swept through the county 5 years ago. Caroline, her parents, her younger brother all gone within a week. I'm so sorry, Millie whispered, understanding all too well the devastation of losing loved ones to disease. Noah nodded, his expression distant. Afterward, I couldn't bear to stay. The ranch, the land, everything reminded me of her. So I started riding with cattle drives, moving constantly. It seemed easier than standing still with grief. Millie reached out, covering his hand with hers. And now, his eyes met hers, the pain in them tempered by something warmer. Now I'm beginning to think standing still might not be so unbearable, given the right company. The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken possibilities. Then Noah cleared his throat and stood, offering his hand to help her up. We should start back if we want to reach town before sunset. The ride back was quieter, both lost in their thoughts. As they approached Tumbleweed Springs, the reality of their situation seemed to descend upon them like the gathering dusk. Noah, a cowboy with no fixed address. Millie, a saloon girl with limited prospects. Whatever was growing between them faced obstacles neither had fully acknowledged. At the edge of town, Noah slowed his horse. Millie, there's something I should tell you. She tensed, expecting perhaps a goodbye, an explanation that he would be moving on soon. Yes, I've been offered a job. Foreman at the Circle G Ranch, just 10 miles west of here. Hope fluttered in Millie's chest. You're staying in the territory? Noah nodded. If I take it, I'd be settling here, building something permanent. And have you decided? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. That depends, he said, his gaze intent, on whether there's reason enough to stay. Before Millie could respond, a gunshot echoed through the evening air, followed by shouts from the direction of the saloon. Noah immediately spurred his horse forward, Millie close behind. They arrived to find a crowd gathered outside the Silver Dollar. Sheriff Miller was restraining a bloody Jasper Reed, while Edgar Thompson stood in the doorway, a shotgun in his hands. What happened? Millie asked, dismounting quickly. Thompson's face was grim. Reed came looking for revenge. Said he was going to teach you and your cowboy a lesson. When I told him to leave, he pulled a knife. Millie glanced at Jasper, who glared at her with undisguised malice despite his restraints. You're nothing but a fancy whore, he spat. And he's a dead man walking. Noah stepped forward, his expression hard, but Sheriff Miller intervened. That's enough, Reed. You're spending the night in jail, and come morning, you're leaving town. I don't care where you go, but if I see your face in Tumbleweed Springs again, I'll shoot you myself. As Miller dragged Jasper away, Millie felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. The incident was a harsh reminder of the precariousness of her position, of how quickly violence could erupt in a frontier town. You should stay somewhere else tonight, Noah said quietly. Reed has friends who might share his grievances. Thompson nodded in agreement. He's right, Millie. It might be best if you made yourself scarce for a day or two, until this blows over. I can't just leave, Millie protested. Where would I go? The Circle G, Noah suggested. I'm heading there tomorrow to give my answer about the foreman position. The owner's wife would welcome the company, I'm sure. Thompson considered this. Not a bad idea. I can spare you for a few days, Millie. Might be safer all around. Despite her reluctance to appear as if she were running away, Millie recognized the wisdom in their concern. All right, I'll pack a few things. The next morning, Millie rode beside Noah on the trail to the Circle G Ranch, her small valise secured behind her saddle. The sprawling property came into view as they crested a hill, a large main house, several outbuildings, corrals filled with horses, and beyond them, acres of grazing land dotted with cattle. George Garner, the ranch owner, greeted them warmly. A gruff but fair man in his 50s, he had built the Circle G from nothing over 20 years. His wife, Martha, immediately took Millie under her wing, showing her to a comfortable guest room and assuring her she was welcome for as long as necessary. Your young man speaks highly of you, Martha said as she helped Millie settle in. He's not Millie began, then stopped. unsure how to define what Noah was to her. Martha smiled knowingly. Well, whatever he is, he's a good judge of character. George wouldn't offer the foreman position to just anyone. He sees something special in Noah, same as I suspect you do. While Millie rested from the journey, Noah met with George to discuss the details of the position. When they returned for the midday meal, Noah's expression was impossible to read. Did you accept the job? Millie asked as they walked together afterward, touring the ranch grounds. I told him I needed one more day to decide, Noah replied. They stopped by a corral where several young horses pranced nervously, recently brought in from the wild herds. This could be a good life, Millie observed, watching the ranch hands work with the animals. It could, Noah agreed, his gaze fixed not on the horses but on her. Millie, there's something I need to ask you, and I want you to answer honestly. Her heart quickened. All right. If I take this position, if I stay in Tumbleweed Springs, would you consider leaving the saloon? The question caught her off guard. And do what instead? Whatever you want. Teach school. Perhaps you're certainly well-read enough. Open a shop. Write your poetry. Millie shook her head. Those options aren't realistic for someone like me, Noah. The town knows what I am. What you do, not what you are, he corrected gently. And what about marrying? Would you consider that? The world seemed to still around them. Are you asking me to marry you? Noah turned to face her fully, taking her hands in his. I'm asking if it's a possibility worth my staying for. I won't pretend I'm not drawn to you, Millie. These past weeks have shown me that life can be more than just movement and work. But I need to know if you feel something too, if there's a chance for us. Millie looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of deception or fleeting desire, but found only earnest hope. Still, years of caution made her hesitate. How can you be sure? We've known each other such a short time. Some things don't need years to become certain, he said softly. When I first saw you in the saloon, I thought I'd stay a night, maybe two. I never expected to find someone who would make me want to stop wandering. His words resonated with a longing Millie had buried deep inside herself, the desire for permanence, for belonging, for love. Yet fear held her back. I need time, she whispered. This is all happening so fast. Noah nodded, understanding in his eyes. Take all the time you need. I'll tell George the first, accept the position regardless. Whatever you decide about us, Tumbleweed Springs feels right to me. That evening, after a hearty dinner with the Garners, Millie sat on the porch of the main house, watching the sunset paint the western sky in shades of gold and crimson. The vastness of the landscape before her mirrored the expansiveness she felt within, as if possibilities long foreclosed were suddenly opening again. Martha joined her, offering a shawl against the cooling air. Beautiful, isn't it? I never tire of this view, even after 20 years. 20 years, Millie echoed. That's a long time to stay in one place. Martha smiled. When you find where you belong, staying isn't hard. Moving on is what becomes unthinkable. How did you know? Millie asked. That this was where you belong. The older woman considered the question. I didn't at first. George and I met in Denver. I was working in a hotel, not unlike your situation at the saloon. He was passing through on business. When he proposed after just 3 weeks, everyone thought we were mad. But you weren't. Oh, we were completely mad, Martha laughed. Young, impulsive, and utterly certain despite having no logical reason to be. The first year was difficult. I knew nothing about ranching, and George had no idea how demanding building this place would be. We fought. We cried. We nearly gave up more than once. What kept you going? Martha's expression softened with memory. Love, yes, but also respect. Determination. The knowledge that what we were building together mattered more than the obstacles. And now, looking back, those difficulties seem small compared to the life we've created. Millie pondered this as darkness fell completely, the stars emerging in brilliant constellations above them. In the saloon, she rarely saw the night sky like this. Too much lamplight, too many indoor hours. He's a good man, Martha said after a comfortable silence. Noah, George says he's never met someone with such a natural understanding of cattle and horses. And the way he looks at you. Well, a woman my age recognizes true regard when she sees it. I'm afraid, Millie admitted. Of what? Of believing. Of hoping. Of building something only to watch it crumble. Martha patted her hand. That's the risk of living, my dear. There are no guarantees, except that without risk, there can be no joy. Later that night, unable to sleep, Millie slipped outside and walked toward the stables where Noah was staying in the foreman's quarters. Light spilled from beneath his door, indicating he too was awake despite the late hour. She hesitated before knocking softly. When Noah opened the door, surprise registered on his face. "Millie, is everything all right? May I come in?" He stepped aside, allowing her to enter the simple but comfortable room. A lamp burned on a small table where papers were spread out, plans for the ranch, she realized. "You've already started working," she observed. Noah nodded. "George has ambitious ideas for expanding. It helps to keep my mind occupied while waiting for my answer," Millie finished for him. "Yes." She moved to the window, looking out at the starlit ranch. "I've spent my whole life being careful, Noah. Protecting myself from disappointment, from harm. It's how I survived. I understand that." Millie turned to face him. "When I was 16 and my parents died, I thought I'd never feel safe again. When my uncle brought me west, I thought perhaps I could start fresh, but then he died too, and I was alone in a strange place. The saloon was the only option that didn't involve compromising myself completely." Noah listened intently, giving her the space to continue. "I built walls around my heart," she went on. "I decided that wanting nothing meant I couldn't lose anything. It was safer that way. And now," Noah asked quietly. Millie took a deep breath. "Now I find myself wanting something I never thought possible. A life beyond the saloon. A future that isn't just about surviving from one day to the next." Hope dawned in Noah's eyes. "With me?" "Yes," she whispered. "With you." Noah crossed the room in 2 strides, gathering her hands in his. "Millie Callahan, I came to Tumbleweed Springs looking for nothing in particular and found everything I never knew I wanted. I can't promise life will be easy, but I can promise you won't face it alone again." "That's enough," Millie said, her voice steadier now. "That's more than enough." When Noah's lips met hers, it felt like coming home to a place she'd never been before, unfamiliar, yet unmistakably right. In his arms, the careful walls she'd constructed began to crumble, not in collapse, but in liberation. They were married 2 weeks later in a simple ceremony at the Circle G, with the Garners as witnesses. Edgar Thompson, to Millie's surprise, gave her away, gruffly admitting he'd always seen her as something of a daughter. "Never thought you'd be the one to settle down," he told her. "But I'm glad you found a good man." Noah wore a new suit ordered from Denver, and Millie a modest white dress Martha had helped her sew. As they exchanged vows beneath the same cottonwood trees where they had picnicked, Millie felt a sense of rightness wash over her. The path that had led her here, filled with loss, struggle, and uncertainty, suddenly seemed perfectly designed to bring her to this moment. After the ceremony, as guests from town and the neighboring ranches celebrated with food and music, Noah pulled Millie aside. "I have something for you," he said, producing a small leather-bound book. Millie opened it to find blank pages, the paper of good quality, with a pencil tucked into the spine. "For your poetry," Noah explained. "I thought you might like a proper place to write." Tears pricked at Millie's eyes. It was a simple gift, but one that acknowledged her inner self, the person beyond the saloon girl everyone else had seen. "Thank you," she whispered, standing on tiptoe to kiss him. As the celebration continued around them, Millie caught sight of Martha watching them with approval. The older woman raised her glass in a silent toast, and Millie smiled in return, a wordless acknowledgement of the wisdom shared on the porch that night. Later, as they prepared to leave for the small cabin Noah had begun building on the edge of the Circle G property, he pulled her close. "When I first walked into that saloon, I was just looking for a drink and a place to rest," he murmured against her hair. "I never expected to find a reason to stop wandering." Millie looked up at him, her heart full. "What made you stay that first night? Why did you come back the next day?" Noah's smile was tender as he traced the curve of her cheek. "Something in your eyes. A loneliness that matched my own. A strength I admired. I only intended to stay a night, but then I realized." "Realized what?" she prompted. "That I didn't come to Tumbleweed Springs for a night," Noah said, his voice low and certain. "I came for a lifetime." Under a canopy of stars, with the promise of tomorrow stretching before them like the vast Wyoming sky, Millie knew that at last, after years of uncertainty, She had found her place in the world not in a town or a building, but in the heart of a man who saw beyond the saloon doors to the woman she truly was.